Hello and welcome to another exciting video. On today's video, we'll be demoing a simple task manager that allows users to add new tasks, mark them as complete, and even undo them if they so decide. It will be done using React State's use of updating arrays and objects. Now, before we look at this, this isn't something that would be stored to a database. This is just a temporary thing to demonstrate the use case of React State. Um, some good examples of when you might use React State would be if you're doing a UI toggle, say going from dark to light mode, or you want to store the data in a form input before it's submitted. So if you type something and then scroll up or down, um, you can even set it up so that because it's stored in the user's local memory, uh, you can hit the refresh page and it'll still be there without storing it in a in like the main database. Um, so it's very useful for that. And I'm sure you've encountered that on a website before. Uh, when you have to hit the back button and then go forward and the data's still there. It's also useful for optimistic updates like the like button, like the like button, as well as filtering and sorting on the fly so that it doesn't require the use of the database to update the data that's already present on the user's local machine. So for me, I found that very useful because as I'm building this, it's like I can hit the refresh button and this task manager is gone. So this isn't something you would want to actually, use because if you hit the refresh button, you're done, and this isn't Lost where you have to, use the same computer. Anyway, um, to get things started, npm create, we're using Vite template, set it up in the repo. We used a JSX component task manager in the SRC, and to initialize tasks as an empty array, we used useState um, parentheses and then with the empty array in there, as well as the variables here, tasks and set tasks. So it's now connected to the React state. We created two use state hooks to keep track of what the user is typing, as well as actually what's being entered in. So here you have input value, set input value. Um, the spread syntax operator, the three dots, essentially clones something in the user's memory, and it's uh, a lot more effective, more seamless, quicker, more efficient than having to actually mutate data or the database. Um, and that's one of the benefits of React there. So we talked about some of that other stuff in the use case. .map returns a brand new array, and tasks map, if you see the three dots there, that's so React looks at the task array and creates a new one. And then in order to prevent React's logic from becoming confused, um, we have to, or we ought to, assign an ID to every object in the array. So that's what key equals task.id does, the task being the object in the array. Um, and then here's a prettier version of the README, but those are my notes. So let's take a look at Task Manager. So here you have, oh, and just so you can see, here's you see the server's live update, which is really cool, especially if you're building something. So yeah, you have, of course, the, setting it up so you can use the state hook from React's library, because it's not a framework. Technically, it's just a library. Um, then you have the task manager function. Uh, we talked about this, the two state hooks there, one for tasks and setting them, and one for setting the input value. Um, from here, we have uh, we set it up so that it can't add empty tasks, and then you have the actual adding task function, uh, not necessarily using the state hook there. Um, the new tasks are going to have the ID date now, which is cool, as well as the input value as a title, which is pretty cool. Just the value itself is going to be the title. Completed fault is going to be false until you set it to complete with the use of the button. And then you have the spread syntax there, which we talked about already, the .dat tasks. So it's just cloning it, using the React state there, set input value, and then that's going to set the task and then set the input value back to blank again. And since we can't add blank in, it's a great spot to be. For the completion of the form, to indicate that a task is done, we have toggle task complete. It's going to be equal to ID, and execution of the ID will be using the JS syntax there. Set tasks. So set tasks is going to use the map, and that is going to execute task ID, and then it's going to be equal to if the ID as the task is it completed, and so it's going to be going through the logic there. Then you have some styling for the return. The input section here, on click, you can add a task. That's just going to tell you to add a task there, and then the button to do so is right next to it. And we're about to look at it, I know, we're just looking at the engine. We haven't driven the car yet. Yeah, this is all styling, so not much to see here. And if there's no tasks there, if the length is equal to 0, you have this. So some nice usability there. That's the task manager. The app.jsx looks somewhat similar. I'm kind of new to this stuff, so this is another thing where, yeah, it makes sense. It's very seamless, but getting everything set up can be so tricky as far as connecting the app.jsx logic to the React component. At least for me, I have to kind of like take a step back and be like, where do I want to put this one versus where do I want to put this one? But as I get more experience, I'm sure it'll become easier anyway. Let's look at the actual app. So we have this here. So task manager, first of all, test number 1, it loads. There's a place where you can actually input text, and on refresh, the page is cleared. So there's 2 tests right there. Adding a task, just edge case here, it doesn't work because there's nothing typed in. And it doesn't even work if there's spaces. There actually has to be text. So that's an edge case 2. And then adding a task, boom, that works. Test number like 3, I think. Test number 4, that works. Undo works. Spamming it works. Edge case, can you type in the same thing? Yes, you can. So that edge case fails, but I guess that's okay. And then on refresh, and everything refreshes. So that's got to be 3 and 3. Other than that, though, yeah, just a simple task manager, and we kind of went through the logic of it all, and the usability of React, and the fact that you're going to be using this in tandem with the database. So, for example, if it was like a like button, I would see it immediately, and then on the back end, it would send it to the back end, and that would, take a little bit more time. The user wouldn't have to wait for that. They would just have the, dopamine rush of knowing that that button turned red when they hit it, and that it's going to be updated in the database. And to them, it's happening right away, but not really happening right away. All right, thanks for watching.